Aren't you glad you get that on your side and you won't have to watch it in Las Vegas next year, like may have been the case if Dak Prescott did not resign with the Cowboys? So Dak gets his 4-year, $240 million record-setting deal. He sets the record for average annual value, for total guaranteed, for signing bonus. Basically, the Cowboys got nothing out of this deal, out of waiting. I always draw the comparison that the Cowboys remind me in their negotiations of Jamie Foxx in Horrible Bosses, where he's faking like he's the murder consultant in the movie. And they come back to get advice from him at the bar, and they say, okay, we need some advice. And he goes, all right, well, it'll be $50,000 for advice. They're like, no more money. He goes, all right, 20. No, 5,000. No. All right, just pay for my drinks. Okay, fine, we'll pay for your drinks. Sure, okay, you're an awful negotiator. That's the Cowboys sit there and have all these like hard line stances that very quickly just get down to pay for my drinks. Okay, fine, sure, yeah, you can have that one. I don't care.
Yeah,
that's how the Cowboys tend to negotiate. And in this one,
which isn't it surprising? Like, though, I don't expect Jerry Jones to be breaking down things in a film room. I expect Jerry Jones to be a master at negotiation and numbers and contracts.
Why? Because he struck oil.
I know you
think every billionaire is one and done, but for a lot of other reasons.
Jerry's got a lot of business successes outside of just.
But you have the point is like when you have a bag of money you're sitting on, it's much easier to negotiate from a position of power. It's like in poker.
But the
big
Nike
stack at the
deal,
table. I get
the NFL,
it.
the networking, the TVs, the way he apparently bullies other billionaires. He's the head of the league.
Yeah.
He's in control over Roger Goodell. I expect Jerry Jones to at least win negotiations.
The NFL makes as much money as it does. I think without Jerry Jones, the NFL is not the brand that it is today. Like he is a massive part of why they make the money that
That's
they
why
do.
he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, it is.
Or the main reason, I think.
That's deservedly so in terms of the way
he does have 3 rings.
The way he's pushed things forward. I was talking about this with Brian yesterday. I don't think you can win in a quarterback negotiation. To me, in this day and age, this is the price, and either you pay it or you don't. You don't win anything. The quarterback will always have all the leverage.
Unless it's someone like Daniel Jones, to where you can be like, all right, if he says no to this, we can move on, and we don't believe he's the guy.
Yeah,
but shoot, man, even they lost that one. Right? Because it's like they were like, well, we're not going to – he just made the playoffs.
Yeah,
we're not going to walk away from this.
But if you have a top 10 quarterback, you're not getting any concessions. No. You either pay the price or you don't. That's it. It's not like running back where you fight, you go back and forth on a fight like that. And so that's where the Cowboys are at. So because that's the option of either do you pay it or you don't, if the Cowboys had said, no, we're not going to pay it, we're not going to do it, and you can be on your merry way, then – Todd France and, the negotiators over at CAA, or not CAA, that's his old firm, Athletes First, they were going to have to have some sort of idea in mind of, okay, what is the fallback? Like, what do we look at and say is out there in the market next year? Because like Michael Lombardi said, he's like, who's paying him? Who do you think's paying him?
Which is a really dumb comment by Michael.
It was bad. But it's like, who do you find it? So they have to think in those terms too. Where do we think there will be opportunity? Where do we think there will be money?
Yeah.
And have to have these sort of discussions. So I think there were probably 3 areas that, I don't know about Dak specifically, but his representatives had their eye on as like, hey, these would probably be options next year. The first one was the one I referenced there. I think they thought the Raiders. I think they thought clearly the Raiders are in they're in a spot right now where they're not totally sure. The Raiders have a history of liking to go out and make splash moves. They've gone out and got, Randy Moss in the past. They went and got Devontae Adams recently. Like, they like to go out there and be kind of splashy with the things that they do.
And that was Michael's point. It was like, it wasn't that teams wouldn't pay him. It's just that, like, all these teams had already signed these guys. What are they going to do? Like, even the Saints, they're trapped with Derek Carr. You know what I mean?
I never believe anyone's truly trapped.
I think that's what Michael was trying to say.
What are the Raiders trapped with?
Nothing. No, the Raiders could have paid. Yeah, and that's what he said.
The Buccaneers aren't trapped with anything. Like they signed Baker for a short-term deal.
It's a 3-year deal, right? Yeah. Yeah. But that's what he said. He said the Raiders. Dak's not going to the Raiders.
Like the Giants aren't trapped.
I think Dak, if he hit free agency, he very well may have ended up with the Raiders.
Yeah, that's what it would have been. Yeah. But would he really have wanted to go? I think Michael was saying he's not going to want to go to the Raiders. They stink.
No, yeah, but I mean, I think Dak does believe in his ability
Why would
to.
Devontae Adams want to go? I mean, it's easy to say that, but if you feel enough disrespect and someone's paying you more, you'll go to a scrubbier situation. You know,
Yeah.
if the Patriots gave I don't know, if the Patriots gave Ayuk exactly what he wanted, is he all of a sudden a New England Patriot? The same thing go if it's the Commanders. He was willing to go play with Jaden Daniels. Like, I don't buy that.
I do think the Raiders were. I think the one Sean just mentioned there. I think that was another one. I think the Buccaneers were a team that they probably looked at and said, "You can like Baker Mayfield all you want." Like when Michael Lombardi said, "Okay, Tim," but I mean they like Baker Mayfield. They don't like Baker Mayfield enough to say no to Dak Prescott though, or to say no to anybody who's definitive top 10
They might
quarterback.
say no after yesterday, after Baker's going to be NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
So that was one where, and we again, this is just from the perspective of where the negotiators were, but also on Dak's side, you got to remember that his girlfriend, who he has his daughter with, her family's from there. Like there's family there that you have to land with in Tampa as well. So I think the Buccaneers were another team that they would probably have their eyes on, and then the other one was the one that we've kicked around before as a possibility. I think the other was they were probably thinking Giants, which makes sense. Daniel Jones getting booed. Fans just waiting around to boo him. It's like normally fans wait around like at an airport to welcome home the team after they go. The New York fans decide they're going to just wait around to boo.
Look, make Carolina, especially after Bryce yesterday. I mean, who knows? You can figure out ways to do it, and teams do it. Seattle, what's going to happen with Geno Smith? Look, man, Dak Prescott was going to get paid. Whether he wanted to go there, of course. Are they in love with their quarterback situation in Denver? Like all I freaking heard about in the preseason about Bo Nix. He was going to have suitors.
Well, and I think
Tennessee.
I think they knew they would have suitors. I think these were three that they thought were viable options to like go in. Not just that will pay you, but they thought this would be a good circumstance for you that we would be able to build.
So name them again.
Raiders, Buccaneers, and then Giants, I think, was the third. And the Giants, because you talk about twice a year you get to go play Dallas. You are building, you get to grow with Malik Neighbors. It's like you basically walk into another CD Lamb situation. Their defense has been invested in. They're starting to come along. You would probably have a say in the future of coaching staff and everything else because they'd likely hit a reset. So I think those were three options that probably would have been on the table next spring.
Two head coaches commenting on the Dak deal. The first is his current one.
Yeah, definitely. Just so happy, so proud, of Dak for, getting that contract done. Obviously, very exciting for us as an organization. I mean, that's a big move when you can, lock up your quarterback, your future for that many years. So, but the timing was different, and I think he handled it just like you think he would. We meet 15 minutes after he arrives at the stadium, so we had a normal meeting, spent probably 3 to 4 minutes, congratulating him on the contract, because that's something that you make sure that you celebrate for the individual. And then I thought he was locked in today. I thought he was normal in his approach and so forth. So, which that's what he does with everything.
And then last night on NBC, normally very generic, vanilla, Jason Garrett going after some of the talking heads to defend four.
But back to Dak, he just plays the game at a high level. I hear these clowns on TV say he's overrated, he's not in the top 10. Watch the game. Yeah. He's an incredible football player, great leader for that team.
Woo!
Clowns.
Now, let me speak for those who are upset. And
Babe Lofberg's former drinking buddy because he doesn't come around anymore.
That's right. I'll speak for those who are upset, who felt like the hope and optimism sucked out of them when this news broke. I get it. I understand why. You feel like, hey, it's just going to be another 5 years and possibly longer, as Jerry Jones was talking about Dak maybe being the last quarterback of his lifetime, and you have a ceiling. You have a ceiling of the second round of the playoffs because that is what history has shown here recently, and that is what Dak Prescott has shown. So that part does suck, that you would have rather rolled the dice and continue to find and draft and sign and trade and search in order to get the unknown possibility like they did in Kansas City, like they tried to do with Arizona. All right, we know Rhodes not the guy. Let's go ahead and move on. That this is too safe and it's not going to win you anything that the Dallas Cowboys are supposed to be about. I get it. I understand it. I would have pulled the chicken move myself and signed him, because of being afraid of the alternative. I'm giving him $60 million. He did finish second in the MVP. I would have personally, if I was, in Dak's circle, I would have said, hey, if you're good to go with the money, take less. Like, try to take less. Keep a good team around you. He did not. He went at top of the market both times. But I get the frustration and why you feel like, as a Cowboy fan, a punch in the gut because you know your fate for the next 5 years.
I will say I think he did take less in the sense that
they could have waited a year.
I think they felt very comfortable with the idea of, like, even not getting exposed to the market. We can get 65 out of Dallas if we wait till the spring before we even get to free agency. And they went ahead and said, numbers just got to start with a 6. 60, fine. You got it up 60. Okay, we can work with
but
that.
He didn't take any type of, we're the legacy deciders on this show, me and Choppy. He didn't do any type of and that, fine. Choppy wouldn't have done it. And look, if the money's sitting right in front of me, I don't know if I would have done it. He didn't give them any type of break or favor that will have him remembered like Dirk, like Duncan, like Tom, and what they did in terms of taking less for their organizations and teams. It's just the way you're going to be remembered by certain fans. You wanted all the money. You wanted top of market. It's going to cost you some players on the back end. Are you good enough to overcome that? And a lot of fans justifiably feel like, no. I'm just giving the other perspective inside. I would have signed him for the contract and for the money.
Which none of that ultimately will matter if he wins, right? Like, because if he wins, then it's it's a bigger legacy builder if he wins that way. Because if it was to be like, oh, you cut him a break so that they could put talent around you, and then you just look at what he sacrificed in order to win a title. Whereas if he wins now, it's like he took the top of the market and he went ahead and he still pressed forward and won.
And Dak fans would argue, what are they going to do with the extra money? They don't do jack squat. They're cheap. They're frugal. And the Cowboys' response to that would be, we take that money and re-sign Micah Parsons. Like, tomorrow we need to have a conversation if Jerry Jones is still cheap. Okay? Like, yesterday everyone is like, Jerry will pay his players on national TV and everything. They paid Lamb. They paid Dak. They're going to pay Micah. They paid Diggs. But is Jerry still cheap? Are they still a cheap organization? We'll have that conversation tomorrow or throughout the week.
It's time for Dallas Cowboys thank you notes. They crushed Cleveland. So who deserves your thank you note? Want to hear on the Franklin Injury Attorney text line 877-881-1053. Also the YouTube. Also the Twitch. Who gets your thank you note?
This is interesting because I think this is going to be very defense heavy today for thank you letters. And I will start with thank you to the rest of the defense. Here's why. Because Micah can be a force, but he doesn't have to be the only force on the field.
Okay, you said this to me before the show, and I thought it was as genius as I think, therefore I am.
Okay.
And so this will be the most important thing that people hear on the show today. Can you expand on that?
Okay. Look at the numbers from yesterday's game. Look at what Overshown's numbers were. I saw 11 tackles.
Yeah.
Somebody said 9, and I'm like, okay. Look at Eric Kendrick's numbers. Look at DeMarcus Lawrence's big-time sack and the pressure that he was able to get. The numbers across the board, everybody was eating yesterday. And it wasn't just, hey, it's on Micah to get pressure. Micah got pressure.
Sure.
But he doesn't have to be the only one that can make the plays happen. I think I feel more comfortable with the linebacker depth, not just the depth, but the starting linebacker group than I have in years. And that includes Micah being able to play. I think the last we saw was 9 snaps at linebacker yesterday. I think whenever they showed the graphic, it was like 32 at edge and 9 at linebacker. And I was like, oh, man, this is nice. And then you go back and watch, like Brian Baldinger posted his post of Micah on every time he got pressure yesterday. And it was 12 pressures, 5 quarterback hits, something just crazy like that.
Unbelievable.
And he was in. Kevin, he's lined up everywhere. He's all over the field, just like we thought. Mike Zimmer actually did it. Instead of saying, you're going to go stand on one side and try and expose this one thing, he was like, why can't I expose this other person? Why can't I expose the center? And then after the game, Tom Brady did give him the LFG award, and then Tom Brady took a long time to explain what the award is. Tom wasn't great, all right? This is not the time. This is not the time or the place for that, though. But the one thing that you heard Micah say was, as he was like, Mike just keeps being creative. and giving me new challenges. And that's what Micah needs, and that's what he's going to continue to every offseason. He did something else to make himself a little bit better, and you saw him be a force in game one. It is one game alone, but it was in game one he was a force, but the rest of the defense was the force with him. So I would like to thank the entire defense. Maybe it's Mike Zimmer that I'm giving that to, but I'm giving credit to the whole group because they were thumping yesterday.
A lot of people are with you from the 817. Thank you to the defense. Being fast, looking like smart football players, and dominating.
Dude, okay, how many times, if you go watch the film on this game, you are going to be watching linebackers moving in sync, not just looking like they're just randomly picking gaps to get into. They're moving parallel or horizontal. They're moving along with the play. And then that's why the overshown play happened. Here you are, you got Vigil. Is it Vigil? He's sitting there working his way to the left. Deshaun Watson seeing that. And it looked like maybe Overshown was a spy on Deshaun Watson on that play because he never guarded the guy that came up in front of him. He had his eyes on Watson the whole time. And as soon as he broke, Overshown said, "I'm coming after you," and got him. But Kevin, go back and watch these linebackers. They were moving in sync throughout the entire game. And that's where the defensive front did their jobs very well to allow those linebackers to fill those gaps the proper way.
Now, I wanted to give a shout out to kind of Overshown and Jordan Lewis here. Shout out to open field tackling from this defense. Man, like I know tackling in general is obviously very, very, very important, but it's the open field tackles that feel like they can burn you. Because what do you hear for every player that's a threat with the ball? Get them in open space, and they're like, hey, they'll dispatch of their one-on-one matchup. I saw multiple open field tackles from Jordan Lewis, multiple open field tackles from Overshown that I thought were tremendous.
That slot defender spot, so difficult to play because the wide receivers that usually they put there are shifty, fast guys that can turn either direction and get there fast. And Jordan Lewis has that. But the other thing that Jordan Lewis realizes is you're playing in the middle of the field. You're playing where the tight ends are going to be. You're playing where the running backs are going to be. You can't Olay things. And Jordan Lewis is not the kind of guy that you've ever seen in his history to make business decisions. He puts his nose in there and makes the play. I love what I saw from him yesterday too, Kevin. And he's our guy. You know, like we had him out at Oxnard, had a great conversation with him. And I was very, very happy with the way that he played his game yesterday.
From the 214, this is kind of a roundabout Dallas Cowboys thank you note. Thank you to Cleveland for giving away all those draft picks and spending $250 million on some dude from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we just had Richard Sherman on, and he said Deshaun Watson is a good friend of his, and he can't quite figure out what's happened either.
From the 817, thank you, Kavante Turpin, for finally showing me why you're on this team. Sheesh, that was fun to watch. Look, man, we've seen so many moments with Turpin where it almost happened.
Yeah.
Where he just turn this way, and that's a touchdown. He finally got that big one. That was really nice to see. But, man, go back and look at that, too. Look at the blocking. Mukwamu. You got Deuce Vaughn. You got all these guys creating that space for him to get that. And then I love that Turpin, Kevin, in the middle of that play, has the mind to be telling guys, hey, hey, don't worry. Hey, got that guy right there. Yeah. He's telling guys to go do that stuff.
Can I tell you, even while he was pointing that out, I thought he pointed out the right blocks. I still didn't think he was going to make it, because I thought it was going to converge at him about the 7-ish yard line and not work out. But he got it. Or, you know what, maybe a defender gave up. I don't know. But the point is, he got the touchdown, and you're right. That was freaking awesome.
Somebody said, hey, can you guys comment on how this is a thank you note, how good the Cowboys are at picking corners like Carson? You saw Diggs get another interception.
Yep.
B, what are the numbers for Amari Cooper? Was it 2 catches for 16 yards in this game?
And he did drop what would have been a touchdown pass when the game was over.
Yeah.
Like, make no mistake about it. Everyone was just going through the motions at that point.
But yeah, I mean, they held their best receiver, who everybody wishes was still here, I guess.
You know how many times he got targeted? 9.
9?
And he had 2 catches.
That's impressive to me that group, that cornerback group, and the safeties, that Malik Hooker was and Donovan Wilson, man, they put hits on people, and that's the fun part of football right there.
I want to give a thank you note to. Can I have 2 thank you notes? I want to give a thank you note to Donovan Wilson and to DeMarcus Lawrence. All right. For 2 specific things that they did.
You willing to call him Tank again?
Hell yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's a good point, man. I get. You know who calls him Tank this morning? Deshaun Watson. That's who. But Donovan Wilson, he annihilated Jerry Jeudy right before halftime. And if you look at that carryover, like obviously you were in a position where Cleveland, they had the ball. They were going to get the ball first to start the second half. You shut it down. And then on the first drive of the second half, DeMarcus Lawrence crushes that first Browns drive of the second half with a sack. And that has to be really, really psychologically debilitating when you're thinking, and even Tom Brady's like, they sure need to get something going here. And not only do they not, they go backwards in the first drive of the second half. That right there, the game was over.
I think Broadus would like to thank the referees for proving him right. He said that he was concerned about the referees and them throwing some flags in that game. I
think
there was
have a lot of flags.
But Kevin, did Ezekiel Elliott intentionally jump over the defender on that first play of the game to be like, guys, I am still nimble? Look, man, he wasn't great. In short yardage, he gets the touchdown. I felt pretty good about that. He's still, you can see, he's not the shifty same guy that he used to be. But on that first play, it did look like he was trying to shut up all the haters out there by just saying, I'm going to hurdle this guy and make something happen.
It worked because I believe in this specific instance, I would be classified as a hater.
Okay, all right.
Mickey Spagnola agreed on Friday when it comes to the Ezekiel Elliott
Mickey Spagnola poured himself a bourbon on that one. Yeah.
He did. I thought that was really impressive. Now, this is a side question. Can we cram a tiny NFL overreaction or reality into this real quick? Sure. Regardless of the outcome, if they leap over the person, overreaction or reality, you are impressed by the football player who can jump over another human.
Yes.
I realize sometimes they'll jump and then they'll get leveled by the next person, but I'm like, I don't know. It's still pretty cool that they jumped over that guy.
Once you have left your feet in like that, you put a lot of risk in there. You know, there's a lot of risk at play, but you do, if you get it and you land it, you're like, that was a huge moment. And the guy that got hurdled is sitting there going, oh man, I just saw the underside of your body. That is not good for me right now.
It's a great
Go ahead and mark
point
that one for Friday. There, Chris Strong. Really appreciate that.
Didn't anticipate.
I would also like to thank the rookies. After a pretty interesting offseason where we were kind of concerned, I was pretty happy with the first game for those two guys. Seemed like BB had pretty clean snaps throughout the game. There were multiple times I saw him get to the second level. I saw him be strong. And Kevin, here's the other thing too. On that play, I'm going to just compare this. On the play where Overshown sacks Deshaun Watson, go back and watch how much push the defensive line gets on the collapsing the pocket.
Yeah.
Because they push it back about 5 yards. And that's why Deshaun Watson had to bail, because his pocket was gone. Go back and look at how many times BB and that offensive line held up straight, and the Browns defensive line wasn't pushing them back. That's a positive right there. So I'm not saying they were perfect by any means, but it was good to see them handle that defensive front and that defensive unit the way that they did. Congratulations to the rookies there.
From the 817, they said their thank you note goes to Zeke, 10 carries for 40 yards, 4 yards per carry. And if he gives us that between 10 to 15 carries a game, that would be great. That was the exact number. I said 4 yards per carry is what we need. And he did score the touchdown. So
I'd like 4.5 or 5 or maybe 6.
I mean, sure.
Or CeeDee Lamb, I thought, had 10 at one point, but I know that changed throughout the game.
It just maybe feels real unrealistic. But
okay,
yes,
fine.
I would agree with that. And you talked about it. Shout out to the defense. In the first half, the Browns went 0 for 6 on third down. Now, they only had one first down, but if you're shutting people out on third down, you're going to win that game. Either that or you're going up against the most efficient offense in history and they just convert every time on first or second down. But odds are far more likely that if you're shutting a team down like that on third down, you're probably winning that game.
Yeah, that's pretty nice to add that to it. Let's go ahead and give a thank you note also to Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks
touchdown catch.
Gets that touchdown. I know that text came in just a few minutes ago, but again, that pass from Dak Prescott, he puts it up in the air, it floats. Brandon Cooks makes a fantastic move.
He did.
On his break to lose the defender, be wide open, and get the Cowboys up early.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I thought that whole play was magical the way it went down. I say thank you to Dak for seeing it, knowing the blitz was coming, knowing one person was going to be uncovered, but also that they had the opportunity for Cooks to break off. And he fired it up there before you were sure. And then you saw the way it played out. It was perfect. Thank you note to Micah Parsons for ruining the final drive of the first quarter for Cleveland. He almost had a sack earlier in the drive, and then he got it on third down to force the punt. You know the play I'm talking about where he had Deshaun like almost wrapped up, but he was so excited that he kind of overshot him.
Yeah.
And then he got the sack after that to squash that drive.
And there were multiple times. I mean, he even said with his in Tom Brady's LFG discussion, which wasn't that great. He even said he's difficult to bring down, like you saw. And Kevin, that was one of the reasons that when he was in Houston, we were like, this dude's a magician. Every time you thought you had Deshaun Watson, he'd spin out of it or he'd find a way out of it and he'd be trying. And you were like, if he just had a line that could block for him, that's what you were always thinking. And then you understand his offensive line wasn't great yesterday. And I know a lot of people want to make comments about, oh, yeah, there are tackles. I get it. They're not the premium tackles you want. They were there last year. They were starting for that team last year, and they had a pretty good record. So, yeah, man, Deshaun Watson still elusive, but he was, I don't know if it was mental, and he's like, these Cowboys won't leave me alone. I can't get my passes off. I don't know where it was, but he didn't look like he belonged on that field yesterday. Oh, wow. Somebody literally just texted, Watson looked like he doesn't even belong on the field anymore.
Like
so thank you.
He made a pass that was caught by CeeDee Lamb on the sideline. And CeeDee Lamb's like 8 yards off of the out of bounds
CeeDee
line.
Lamb was like, I'll catch anything, dude. Just throw my way.
And we have a new Dak contract to talk about as he becomes the highest paid player in the sports history here, and a very well-earned $60 million a year. How did this come to be? David Moore has the story up in the morning news. Dak got the call an hour before they left the team hotel to go to the stadium on Sunday. Said it was emotional because he would have bet that it would not have gotten done at the same time on Saturday. Apparently Saturday evening and Sunday morning things started to speed up. I just love the great line from Dak. I just want to hold up my end of the deal and deliver for Jerry. And Jerry saying, my prayer is that we have the ability to put the supporting cast around him. I hope those things change, but I feel like we've been listening to Cowboy greats or Cowboy good players, Cowboy Pro Bowlers say this now since about the late 2000s, after the thing happens in Seattle, where now we're getting to 10, 12, 15 years since the Cowboys had won it. So now we've been dealing with like another 15 years of this happening since we started seeing Jerry Jones and the Cowboys say things like this after doing new big deals or, getting ready for another season. I want to know what's going to be different. Why Jerry Jones should we believe that the organization could actually take advantage of this opportunity in the next 5 years of having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? What would give you confidence, Zach, that this could change for us?
Honestly, there probably is not a reason to be confident. Nothing's really changed, right? Like, Dak is a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys, I do think, have put together a pretty good supporting cast for the most part around him. Now, you have, I think, a defense that is probably the best, in my opinion, that he's going to have played with. I think this defense is taking another level. I get it. They went up against an absolutely terrible offense yesterday with 2 backup tackles. So we need to kind of wait and see before we anoint them. Oh my gosh, this is like a top 3 elite defense. I will wait to do that. Mm-hmm. But I do love what I'm seeing schematically from Mike Zimmer, how he's being able to get the most and maximize Micah Parsons and create matchups for DeMarcus Lawrence, who had one of his best games yesterday as well. The linebacking core is night and day. So the defense, that can help you, right? I mentioned this comment, in the post-game show. As great as Patrick Mahomes is, Patrick Mahomes isn't winning Super Bowls without Chris Jones on the other side also making defensive plays. Like Micah needs to get that from Trayvon Diggs, who's locked up long term, from Micah, who's going to get locked up long term. Like the rest of the team's got to step up here. When it comes to Dak, I mean, I think you guys know I love Dak. I think highly of Dak. I think he's a very good top 10 quarterback. At times plays like a top 5 quarterback. But the jury's out in the postseason. You can't look away from what's happened the last 3 exits. Now, Green Bay, did he play well? No, but the whole team played terrible. But he had the opportunities against San Francisco to go on game-winning drives. And that's really what sets you apart as a quarterback in the postseason. Games on the line. Can you go ahead and do this? And when you're paying a guy that contract, that's what he knows he needs to now take that step and do. There are some Cowboy fans that are going to think he will never be that guy, and maybe he won't be.
Well, especially after yesterday's second half, I feel like that had to reinforce that. Here's the guy that struggled against Green Bay, that struggled against the Niners, struggled a handful of times in the regular season last year, and I don't feel like he's going to be different. There's nothing Dak can do. He's maxed out. I think it's got to come from the organization.
I mean, the organization can't go out there and make the plays for him, though, right? I don't think you can look at a single Super Bowl that's been won and that quarterback that won the Super Bowl, even like a Trent Dilfer and a Brad Johnson who got carried, and there wasn't a moment in that playoff run where they had to step up and make a play. You have to have your quarterback do that. No matter how good your team is, you have to have your quarterback at some point. At Eli Manning, do I think he's better than Romo? No. But Eli Manning made some awesome plays and stepped up in big moments for the Giants to win those Super Bowls.
Aren't they always on teams, though, that have a defense that'll do it for them or a running game that can do it for them?
Yes. I mean, look, Dilfer and Johnson, they're not in Super Bowls without elite defenses, right, and having running games. Certainly, you want to build that around him. And I think that they've done a good job now. You've added 2 young offensive linemen that I think are going to be here for a long time.
Sure.
They might have some reserves that can slide in when Zach Martin's time's over. I love to hear what you said about Steele, who's locked up.
Yeah.
If he can get back to his position,
Sure did.
you know, the offensive line's going to be a huge part of this. And I think we're going to talk next year, the draft, it's going to be about finding your next big running back.
I think that as long as they don't lose Will McClay, they'll be all right. I think that's your hope right there. I think Will McClay is the glue that holds all this together, and his ability to to manage the coaches, manage the scouts, manage the Joneses. If Will McClay decides to pick up and leave or gets an opportunity, and we don't know. I mean, Will might be closer to doing that than, in years past. Getting his own team, letting it run, run his own operation, pick his own coach.
Getting the title of actual general manager.
Right.
I think if you keep Will McClay, you're going to do a good job of holding the standard they're at currently.
I think that, to me, when you start to, and this is how I was going to finish it up, you have, say, yesterday you had 9 pressures, I believe, from Micah Parsons. If you talk about pressures, and, that's important. Nealon had 8. The tackles Overshown makes. So to me, those are the guys that are going to make the difference in you going forward. With the and being able to, guys you didn't expect. We didn't expect that Marshawn Nealon would be a guy that all of a sudden he's playing 40, 50 snaps, he's getting 8 pressures out of that. That's the ability that Will McClay has. And I think you got a defensive coordinator. And me, I'm biased to Mike Zimmer. I love Mike Zimmer. I said it when he was hired. I think this is a guy that's capable of saving Mike McCarthy's job.
Well, through 1 week, you're 100% right.
I believe that. I really do believe that. Now, we'll see what happens. But to me, Dawson, if you lose Will McClay, you are going to lose the ability, I think, to draft well.
I would agree with that.
And that, or to go out and get players free agency. They're not going to spend money the traditional way of going out hundreds of millions of dollars on somebody else's players. They've proven they'll spend it on their own.
I mean, nobody's perfect. They've had their down seasons as well, but I would want nobody else than what the Cowboys have put together when it comes to their whole draft team.
Yeah.
I'll take these guys. I believe in them. But, what's going to push it over the top, I think, is the management of the salary cap at the front office level, and I don't think Jerry and Stephen Jones are imagining that there is even an opportunity there.
Well,
That's what's got to change if you want to win it.
I'm confused. In what way? In the management of what way? I mean, how do you want them to? They're paying top
go get
dollar.
great players. Go get more great players.
Yeah, I think
fill
for
your
me,
holes. Get a
for me,
running
it
game.
would be in maybe.
But okay, they drafted the running back. Excuse me, they drafted the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Where now the jury is out is on the running backs.
Who was our defense? Who was our player of the game yesterday, Brian? In the post game,
it was a linebacker,
right? Eric Kendricks, right?
Kendricks, yeah.
So Eric Kendricks was a free agent addition.
Yeah.
Now he was not expensive at all. But right. I think that we know they draft and develop well. That's the reason they're competitive. That's not changing. And as long as Will's here, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think the next step then is evaluating, and maybe it's not, hey, I'm going out and getting top of the market guys, but at least being a player and showing that you're active in free agency instead of completely taking it off, which it seems like they do. Now, credit to them. They got Eric Kendricks at their number. He said, bye-bye, San Francisco. I want to come and play for you. Hell yeah, they deserve credit for that move. But at the same time, little additions like that, that's what ends up being able to be the difference makers for certain teams in the postseason, and I don't think we've seen enough of those.
Yeah, I think for the Rams in 2021, it's Von Miller and Jalen Ramsey. We need a pass rush. We need a cover guy.
Is that trades?
Trades are a part of that.
That was trades.
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't free agent signings, but that was a commitment to trading the picks and then paying the guys, I guess.
Yeah.
But to me, they're going to always pay their own before they pay somebody else's own. That's where their philosophy is. They're like, when you draft well enough, you can get away with that. I don't think that's a bad philosophy, but to me, to go out and get a Kendricks, they traded for Cooks. I think Cooks played a factor in the game yesterday. I don't know. I just, to me, there's ways to do this without paying other free agencies.
I just don't see the teams that's doing it. Before that, it was Tampa adding Ndamukong Suh and Jason Pierre-Paul. There's going to be parts of your roster that are lacking, and I see the great teams adding all pros there.
They traded a one. They're terrible at trading a one to go get a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that to go get Amari Cooper. And it's a shame that Amari Cooper and the team got cross. That would have been something that'd been nice to probably still have Amari Cooper here playing. But I think the willingness they're going to always pay their own. Are they going to go out and sign? No, they're not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. There's teams, like you say, I think the Rams, maybe some bad drafting teams. That's where if you don't have confidence in your ability to draft, you have to go out and pay money, I think, to go get guys.
Well, they got the Dak deal done. Dak says he wants to, get the championship done. Jerry Jones.
That's on him now.
He believes he can now. Jerry Jones quote. I believe I can put the supporting cast around him. I don't know. They have opened as 6.5-point favorites in week 2 against the New Orleans Saints. How you feeling about that matchup right now, Chief?
Ooh, I feel good about it. I know the Saints just mollywopped the Panthers in the Superdome, but that is not something that strikes fear into me. I still will be expecting Cowboys victory. The line is starting at Cowboys 6.5-point favorites, probably with the fact that how good the Cowboys were at home last year is factored in there a little bit. But yeah, I'm feeling good about beating the Saints. I will add one other thing to just the general, the strategy of trying to get a Super Bowl. You got to make sure you got to make sure you got the right head coach. And you've upgraded from Jason Garrett to Mike McCarthy. You have absolutely leveled up. But is that ultimately going to be enough, or is there, not shortchanging yourself on the coaching stuff? There's no salary cap in the coaches. Make damn sure you go out there as the number one. You're America's team. You're the wealthiest team in all of sports. There is no cap on just going and saying, I'm going to make sure I have an awesome coach. And you did it defensively just now. And it's not, I don't want to take a ton of shots at Mike McCarthy because he's solid. But solid quarterback Dak, solid head coach Mike McCarthy is not usually winning the Super Bowl. You got to have great somewhere.
Of the next great coaches, is Ben Johnson the one that you would say could get you a Super Bowl?
I think that's definitely a guy you would take the chance on. Yes, I don't know his personality. I don't know all the other head coach characteristics. But from what I know about Ben Johnson, heck yeah, dude, that'd be a guy I'd want to go get.
You're married to the quarterback now.
Yeah.
And so now the quarterback needs.
How can I help my really good quarterback, not great, but really good quarterback, be the best version of himself? Matthew Stafford going from Detroit's coaching to Sean McSex, all of a sudden, he's throwing no-look touchdowns in a Super Bowl.
So when you're thinking about the potentially of the next head coach here, And, like I say, that here we are. It's not even the off season. But if you're thinking about that, you have to absolutely think about your first question then has to be about Dak Prescott and how you would work with, how would you would make Dak Prescott what you're talking about. If you think the coach is a Super Bowl coach, okay, how do I get my quarterback to play that way? And please don't tell me that you don't think my quarterback can get to the Super Bowl, because if you don't, then we just made a huge mistake with some money.
At this point, if McCarthy's not back, I want Mike Zimmer as the head coach with Al Harris as the DC.
I kind of feel like that Mike is the DC, and nothing against him as the head coach is a better office for you as a DC than he is a head coach.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
As long as he sticks around.
That's just me.
Yeah, as long as he sticks around.
No, that's just me.
Ben Johnson.
Personally.
Just keep him there.
That's just personally. I mean, that's why I think Mike. I think when you let him be the guy that walks around and makes sure that the defensive line's taken care of. Al Harris is a damn good coach. I think he's on his way. But to me, that's Mike as a defensive coordinator, I think, is better than Mike as the head coach. That's just me.
Impressive debut yesterday. Everything just looked so much more solid, and that the breakdown was unlikely. And when the ball was being delivered to a spot, it seemed like the entire team knew it a half second before and was rallying there.
Well, you're looking at opening day, and you have a lot of time to prepare for that.
Okay,
you have a lot of time, and
Zimmer knows Stefanski very well,
and he does.
Yeah.
And I think that Wooly Bully's right though on this thing. Let's see how it plays. The pieces are there for them to have a very good defense. But let's see, you've got some games coming up that, you get a quarterback this week that could throw the ball down the field. That this quarterback you just played couldn't throw it 6 yards. I mean, he couldn't complete a pass, everything was underneath. But that was the pressure you put on him to do that. So, but I think Zim will be up to the task every week.